So here I am, sun's coming up, 5:34. I took a different trail than I usually do here, and way slower than I thought, way more brutal than I thought. So don't think I'll be taking that one again. But I figured I want to talk about this testing foods that I do, and I mention quite a bit. I do it for 3 reasons. One is I truly want to find the optimum that I can be. 2 are allergies and reactions, which kind of relate to 1, but the allergies are a big thing for me. And 3, I'm just curious. Sometimes I'm really curious about foods off carnivore that I used to like that I test. Welcome to the channel. My name's Chad. Been doing this for basically 4.5 years strict, 5.5 years with my keto the first year. My keto was meat, nuts. Started out with too many chaffles, pork rinds, all these substitute foods, and I have a video on that. But talking about this, I'm going to go first on optimum. I am like training for the Olympics with no doubt that I'll ever even be close to anywhere near an Olympic athlete. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to strive to be that way. Like I said, I've had a rough start of a year, but I'm back into it. This is the thing. There is that time you just got to quit making excuses, like Evans and I chat the other day. Quit making excuses, get up and do it. My alarm is set for 4:30 a.m. I was up today at 4:25 a.m. before my alarm. I just had this sense to get awake. Got going. It was a little late coming out of the house. I think I hit the trail like about 4:45. Do about a 4-mile hike. I'm going to be upping this to 5 miles. The pack today is a little bit lighter, probably 15 pounds. And I'm going to start upping that. And sometimes what I do is I'll bring a towel and I'll just wrap rocks and put rocks in the thing, and then I just dump the rocks back off. So about this testing optimum. To me, these were things like chicken that went away at about 6 months. Pork went away about 1 year, and I used to love pork. Now, I have no clue, but in the islands I used to be able to eat pork all the time, but it was always wild caught, hunted natural stuff. So it could be too what's in it. And I know people have said this, I got to find some good farm-raised pork that's not raised on weird soy dog food protein garbage and try it. But I also don't care because I do think ruminant meat has better, taste, value, everything else. The one thing that I'll still eat are ribs. I actually do enjoy, the pork ribs. Not too often, maybe like every 3 months I'll cook some. If I get a smoker, which I have to do, I might start cooking them more and see what I think. I know my daughter likes them once in a while, but even the family is not really big on pork. The good thing is, though, it's cheap. It's really cheap. So pork leads me to bacon. I eat bacon every few months, maybe 3-4 months sometimes. I think it was around Christmas is the last time I had it. And it's obviously in May, so I do like it. I think it's really good. I can't eat as much as I used to. It just doesn't set right with me. So I don't eat a lot of ground, even though I do like ground. It's not my favorite by any means. And I'm going to do a video on how to cook ground correctly, because I see some people literally slow cooking, boiling it. It's that's not how you cook it, in my opinion. You want a good Maillard reaction and good browning. That's why smash burgers are so good. So anyway, if I have ground, I'll mix it with some bacon, which is pretty awesome that way. Which kind of leads me into number 2. Well, first I'm going to jump back. One more thing that I found recently is lamb. I'm doing a ton of lamb these days, and I'm really liking lamb. Michaela Peterson, I know, didn't like lamb, but she was eating lamb. I think she has a rancher now, or somebody she knows that's getting her non-aged meat, if I'm correct. And that would be interesting to get a hold of, maybe somebody local where I could get some meat that isn't aged, because all the meat we buy is aged for 30 days, wet aged. And I don't know. Maybe that's it, because lamb isn't aged. And I guess I'll never know until I can somehow try it. And hunting around here isn't like in the islands where you can just go out and hunt whenever you want kind of thing. It's like this whole lottery system, and it's just ridiculous. But that's the way it is with this many people. So, number 2 is the allergic reactions. Spices, pretty much all the spices I'm allergic to. I've always had a severe allergic reaction to onions and garlic when it's in food. And it's just basically really bad, like respiratory symptoms and stuff like that. I still used to enjoy it in foods because I enjoyed, I guess, the flavor of it and everything else, but that's pretty much long gone. I'll have a couple bites of my boy's taco meat once in a while just to see how he's flavoring stuff, what he's like, and it's kind of a fun thing. And 1 or 2 bites doesn't bug me. And again, that's not too often that I'll do that. But the other big thing are eggs. Eat eggs if you can. If you're allergic to them, don't eat them. I keep trying. I get massive itchy skin, and I get a bad gut ache and everything else. So while I keep trying them every 6 months, and I'm coming up to a point probably toward my birthday where I'll be trying them again and seeing what happens. Now, I've had some people say, well, just have a few if they don't bug you. Well, like if I eat 3 for, say, whatever, a week or 2 weeks, that number might be up to like, just say 20 to 40 eggs over that 2 weeks. I'll start to notice my skin at some point start to get itchy, and I'll start to notice even 3 starts bugging my gut. Now, if I just eat like 8 a day for 4 days, I'm in about the same spot percentage-wise of that 2 weeks. So at the second day in, it's basically, do the math, the same thing about whatever 6 days in would be. And I just can't do it. So it's almost like this build-up, maybe to say. And again, it's a bummer because I think they're great. I love the flavor. I love how versatile they are. I can eat egg yolks just fine, and I do, but I also don't like to eat them because they're just so, I hate wasting all the whites, and nobody around the house eats just egg whites. So that's kind of part of the allergy things. And the 3 is the big one, the curiosity. Now, I'm going to say this right up front. I'm in a spot where I know I can try things and not go binging on them. If you're not in that spot, don't even test these foods. Also to say, I test them usually when they're around. So it might be like Halloween when the kids get something, Easter when the kids get something, and they get less and less each year as they get older. And it's just, my kids aren't carnivore. They enjoy the treats. They don't get them just from us. It's like they'll get them from, going out with their friends, doing things, stuff like that. And then around Christmas, I might test something that I used to like. I do say this, like at my kid's birthday, I have 2 bites of their cake. My daughter often makes the cakes, and I like seeing what she's creating and doing everything else. Most of the time, she's creating these things that are like whipped cream, cream cheese, mascarpone cheese kind of thing, so they're not like overly sweet. And like I said, 2 bites isn't going to hurt it. I celebrate their birthday with them. My daughter at 20, I think she's starting to do some things more with her friends, so the cake thing on hers might go away unless she does again make them. Sean Baker, I've heard, has, I'll have a piece of cake once in a while. So again, I always joke, if you want to take away one Dakota ring, I'm not wearing my ring. I'm married, but I don't wear my wedding ring when I go hiking because over the years, basically since I was married, I lost enough that it doesn't fit correctly. So about this testing though, it's often a teeny bite, and it's often with the intent that I'm going to spit it out, and I'm just curious of the flavor. I've mentioned this story before. Swedish fish were one of my huge things for Halloween. The first year into my carnivore, took a little bite of this Swedish fish head, and it was insanely sweet. And I was like, wow, that's sweet. I never even noticed that. The next year, it was like, I had a bite, and it was also extremely synthetic, and it wasn't almost as much sweet as this weird synthetic chemical syrupy taste. almost like bad cough syrup would be to you, or something else, trying to be sweet, but you know it's just trying to mask this horrid flavor. And I really noticed that. The one other thing were these little things called sixlets, which aren't even chocolate, but they're supposed to taste like a little chocolate with a candy shell. Those just tasted gross and synthetic. And I'm trying to remember if I had something the third year or not now. Now I can't remember. I probably mentioned if I did. I think I might have had Swedish fish, and it kind of removed all doubt. But this last year for Halloween, I didn't even bother testing anything. And I also want to say, it's important to know this. Like when you're testing things, if you're going, oh, I'm just going to test this, and you have like a whole candy, or you're like, I just want to test these Linder balls. Oh, I better test the blue ones. I better test the red ones. I better test the white ones, or vanilla, whatever they are. That's not testing. That's making an excuse to binge. You can't be doing that. So there's a big difference, I think, on having one little bite, even if you swallow it or spit it out a couple of times and that's it, I think is, in my opinion, okay. In some ways, I think it's actually made me stronger. And I'll say this why. It removes all doubt in your mind about a food. And this will end up with two results. You'll end up with the food taste extremely gross, like Swedish fish, or you'll actually say, hey, this isn't bad, this is interesting, that it's not bad. And for me, my brain goes off on, well, because it's really high quality, or, okay, so I do know that I have to be careful with this, and I don't need to test this, and I might come back and test it in 1 year to see if that changes. But even if I test it for, say, like 3 years and it still tastes okay, well, I know that that's a danger food, and I can put that in this like red ring around me, or a red line, kind of like a stop of never go there. Just flat out do not go there. So the removing all doubt I found pretty interesting. Cinnamon buns, or cinnamon rolls, whatever you want to call them, were one of my all-time nemesis. I haven't had them in like years. This Christmas, that was one of my test bites, and I had a bite. It just wasn't good. It brings back a lot of memories, and I've said this before. It's a lot like when you hear a song from your high school, and it might even be a song that you didn't like. Like, I was kind of a punk rock, new wave guy in high school, and I wasn't really into like the whole long-haired rock stuff. So you hear a song though, but it still brings back all these memories of high school and your buddies that, you know, were into that music or whatever else. And it's not necessarily a good memory, but it's a memory that brings back, I guess, other memories, if you will. I think that's making sense. And you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I remember this. And that's about it. So I think a lot of these foods will bring back a memory, but it doesn't have to be a good memory. It's just a memory of what you used to do. But again, those are all gone, the cinnamon rolls, things like that. So most things I found repulsive. What have I found okay? Ironically, it was like really high quality chocolate that is still okay. Like my wife got some really high-end chocolates from a client, and they were these little teeny things. So I cut it in half again, basically had a quarter bite. And it was actually, like I could say, okay, that's a really good chocolate. And the flavor wasn't gross, but they, again, were quality. I've had chocolate chips in the past from like, I forgot what, I think at Christmas when the kids were decorating something. And I found like Nestle's chocolate chips really repulsive. I just think it's an important thing not to be afraid if you're in this position, again, of being able to say no. Because I found, again, that removing all doubt is pretty strong. There's really nothing I crave. I don't ever go through this, oh, I used to love these things. I wonder what I would think of them now. There's just, I don't know. For me, that's the way my mind works. I know it's easy to say, oh, I don't have any temptation. I can walk down the chip aisle and not get chips. For me, I had no desire to eat chips, but I would walk down the aisle and I would look at like the salt and vinegar potato chips and go, oh man, I used to love those things. How they make your mouth water, everything about it, man, you know, I used to love those things. But I'm feeling better. I don't want to eat those. I'm going to move on. I think that makes sense. But now I go down and I go, synthetic garbage. There's a difference, I think, in your mindset of saying, oh, I used to love those, but I don't want them, versus that's just nasty. To me, it's like walking through the produce aisle. I've never been a veggie eater, even though I went plant-based for about 6 months to try it. Oh, worst thing ever, especially the juicing. And not even want that. It's like when my wife makes Brussels sprouts in the house, it just destroys the house for the day. So that's a little bit about, I guess, that testing. See what you guys think. I'd love to hear your comments. Do you test foods? Are you the type that's like, no way, I'm not ready for it yet, or just no way, I don't care to? Again, to me, the curiosity is probably one of the reasons about finding my optimum. As some of you guys know, I'm a big person on faith, and to me, this is like being tempted with sin. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be these things that come up. It's how we handle it. Do we just say no? If we do, I guess, fall into it because, you know, as a Christian, you're never going to be sinless. How do you handle it? You know, the Christian side, most you would, try to repent from it, ask forgiveness, try not to do it again. But it's an impossibility in a fallen world never to sin again. So I really do think even the carnivores have to have this grace of, if they do something, if they're out with a friend and have something they thought they were never going to have again, is not to kill yourself over it. Again, learn from it, move on, don't beat yourself up, because the beating yourself up does nothing for you but make you feel more miserable, and you probably already feel bad enough. So I think that's a good, important little thing to take away, but don't make it an excuse. Don't go, oh, well, I can ask forgiveness, I'm going to go ahead and have this cinnamon roll. Oh, well, it's okay, it's not sinning, it's just a cinnamon roll. Again, don't make excuses. Just try to stop, try to avoid it, and enjoy. Stay carnivorous, my friends, and a hui ho.